rape charges. Lebanon officers arrested the man wanted out of New Jersey in the area of Murfreesboro Road and I-40. Officers found the suspect's vehicle near the MAPCO on South Cumberland Street, and he was arrested without incident. The Highway Patrol tipped off the Lebanon officers after a license plate reader indicated the suspect may in fact be in the area. No identities released as of yet. That is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
This is the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy, and this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. We are out and about live today. A more gorgeous day I don't think you could ask for. It is beautiful. Humidity is low. The temperature probably, we're talking 86, somewhere in that neighborhood with low humidity. 84, is that right? 84, says CJ. Low humidity out here at Timms Ford Lake at Twin Creeks Marina. Come on out and see the incredible amenities that they have. Every time I'm down here in Winchester, Tennessee, people in Winchester tell me to be quiet talking to all the Nashville folk about everything that's going on at Timms Ford Lake because it is really gorgeous. It's I wouldn't say it's an untapped gym because there's a lot of people tapping the gym that is Timms Ford Lake, but you know what I mean? But because I see a lot of boats out here, I see a lot of folks at the marina, I see a lot of folks at drafts and watercrafts, but they're trying to, the people that are already here want to stop the clog or congestion. There's not a lot of congestion out here, though, folks. There's beautiful blue waters, blue skies, a lot of green, and we would love to see you before 3 o'clock today when we'll wrap things up. I was just looking at a breaking headline. A plane off of Sao Paulo Brazil. I may be mispronouncing Sao Paulo.
Sao Paulo.
Sao? Is it Sao?
Sao Paulo, yeah.
Sao Paulo. Plane with 62 people aboard crashed earlier today in a residential area in the city of Sao Paulo. Not immediately clear how many people were injured or killed. The airline, which is Vopas, confirmed in a statement that the plane headed for Sao Paulo's International Airport crashed with 58 passengers and 4 crew members aboard. Statement did not say what caused the accident. Firefighters confirmed that the craft fell, but did not offer further details. That's breaking news that is just in on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, so we're monitoring that situation for you, as you might expect, and we'll give you late-breaking information. I mean, obviously, that's very sad news. We continue to discuss the stolen valor aspect of Tim Walz's candidacy for president or vice president of the United States of America. We will continue to do that. I want to examine, too, at some point this or next hour, the situation that's going on in the UK. You know, I think we'll be able to talk with our good friend Jay St. Clair about this as well, because he teaches class at. Well, you know what? I'm going to get so many of these details wrong. I'll tell you what we'll do. Why don't we reset in this way? It is just after 1 o'clock, precisely 1:08 in the afternoon on this August 9, 2024. And as I look on my screen here, I see on line 1 that it is high time for my good friend, my best friend, my gambling buddy, my life correspondent, and a great legal mind. It's time for Fry J. By the way, Bell, I'm getting a groundswell of OG people that are begging for the old school Perry Mason. I don't know where I'm at on it yet. I'm just letting you know that I had that related to me. I don't know where the man himself is on it, although he's kind of OG in his own right. He is Jay St. Clair. He joins us weekly to thrill us with his legal knowledge and to also, talk about anything else he wants to discuss on this day and to answer your legal questions. 615-737-9986. Jay, how's it going, buddy? How are you?
Hey, Matt, if I were any better, I would be watching you feed wild turtles in this lazy little stream behind a Waffle House. I'm a man of simple pleasures, and life just doesn't get much better than that, man.
My one regret about feeding the turtles behind the Waffle House is that we fed them. I took a piece of your toast, which was wheat, and I took a piece of mine, which was white. And I thought about this later on, Jay. This is the way my mind works. It's very odd. Yeah. But I tried to remember which they seemed to like more. They liked both of the pieces of bread quite a bit. But I failed to notice if they preferred white or wheat. One way or the other, they seemed to be ready, willing, and able to accept anything offered to them in that little stream outside the Waffle House.
No, it's just great. It's wonderful. It's a hot morning, but that's just, I am American by birth, man, but Southern by the grace of God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about as Southern as it gets right there.
Yeah, feeding turtles outside the Waffle House?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, it was, when it's the highlight of the trip. And look, I'm not even talking about the heater that Jay got on the night before at the craps table. So when that's the highlight of the trip and there was a heater involved, it was a pretty good trip that you and I had last weekend.
Yep. Yeah, well, money easy come, easy go. But, wild turtles coming up around you. It was like Bambi.
Well, the amazing thing is, Jay, I could walk within 12 feet from me is a gumball machine that has been converted on this dock to a fish feeding machine. Oh, and I watch as the carp and the turtles battle it out for who gets the food first. And what is it about me that I'm rooting for the turtles? Yeah. Are you rooting for the turtles? Kirby gave the thumbs up. He's rooting for the turtles.
It's the rabbit and the turtle, right? The turtle's a slow-moving one, right? The carp's got a distinct physical advantage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we all
wait a minute. Did he just say it's the rabbit and the turtle versus the tortoise and the hare?
Oh, yeah.
Well, in the South, it's a rabbit and a turtle.
That's right. We don't know what a tortoise is, Bell. Come on.
Or a hare.
I mean, a hare. What are you talking about? Like a hair on your head, Bell? Come on. It's a rabbit. It's a wild rabbit. All right. We shut Bell up there, but Jay. We did a good job.
Yes, you did.
Jay, it occurs to me at this point, and I asked you about this morning, and I misstated it in my text, but it occurs to me that we haven't talked a lot. Isn't it interesting with everything going on with Joe Biden and the decision on the part of whomever made the decision, and we have some pretty good information that it wasn't Joe and it wasn't Jill. It was more like Barack and Kamala and some others that made the decision that he had become such a liability on the Democrat ticket. They had to remove him and replace him and all of those things. It occurs to me that all of these, what was being referred to as lawfare issues, we haven't talked about those in quite some time. And I thought maybe it'd be a good opportunity to kind of reset, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, we had 4 different issues going on simultaneously against Donald Trump. Is that not right?
No, yeah, that's exactly right. And the whole thing is sui generis, man.
Ooh.
It's one of a kind. It's never happened before, and I frankly think it'll never happen again. So they had 4 criminal charges brought against him, none of which were filed until he announced he was running for president. Huh. 2 of them are in state court. 2 of them are in federal court. One in the state court is in Georgia. And that case has kind of been forgotten, right? You remember that. It's about the conspiracy of January 6th. That case will not go to trial before the election. Because the prosecutor, you talk about being hoisted on your own petard. You know, that's the one where the prosecutor was having an affair with one of her assistants. And that got found out. And so they're going to try to kick her off the case. Well, that's out now tied up in the appellate courts, man. There's 0% chance that case will come to trial before the election. The other one is the state court case in New York, where Trump got convicted. And really the only thing left to do there is to sentence him, or maybe even to overturn the conviction in light of the Supreme Court's decision in the immunity case. That's going to come up in September. So that's the one thing, that something's going to happen in that case, Matt. The Florida case was about the documents in Mar-a-Lago. That case has been dismissed, man. Judge threw that case out of court. So it will not be heard before the election. And then the other federal case is in Washington, D.C. It's the other January 6th case. And that's the one where the immunity issue went to the United States Supreme Court. And there's maybe a 1% chance that case will be heard before the election. Well, I say 1/2 of 1%. So the bottom line is that there's not going to be another trial before the election, in my view. The only thing that's going to happen is the sentencing in New York, and that will be driven 100% by politics. I think, as I've said to you before, man, I've never understood what the strategy was here. I've just never understood it. These cases have nothing to do with law. They have 100% to do with politics. And I suppose one strategy was to keep him from being nominated. You know, if they just accuse him of all these crimes, people will run away from him. Well, if that was the strategy, it didn't work. And that's history now. So then I guess the other strategy was, let's charge him with all these crimes, get him convicted with as much as you can, and nobody will ever vote for him. And, you know, that's kind of where we are now. But the interesting thing to me, Matt, is we don't hear much about that in the campaign. Right? Every so often they refer to Trump as being a felon, but we don't hear much about it.
Yeah, so she tried, and I don't know if they if they've abandoned it altogether. But right when they named her, you know, they thought it was a real slick that, you know, she said, you know, I was a former prosecutor and I put felons behind bars and I put felons in jail and now I'm going to take care of another felon. She's kind of throwing that out there. Right. Jay, she stopped doing that. And I'm wondering if Democrat strategists have not told them to stop doing that because they don't want to remind. I mean, I know it sounds partisan, whatever. I mean, they don't want to remind potential Democrat voters that have had negative impact with the law that she used to prosecute drug offenses and other offenses that, they need these people to go vote for her. I don't think they want to remind people necessarily that she used to be a prosecutor.
Yeah, I bet that's probably right, because they're certainly not talking about it. And I don't think it has affected more than, well, this is your area, something mine. But I think it's had a little effect on how people are going to vote. So I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what that judge does. And frankly, I think the best thing they could do from Trump's perspective is send him to prison for 5 years.
So what? So this what are the judge's options? I mean, could the judge delay sentencing until after the election?
He could. He's got a lot of options. He's a judge, right? I mean,
he's got a lot of things on his table that he could use.
Well, I mean, he's just got absolute discretion. He could put it off. He could say, well, this recent Supreme Court case overturns this case, and so therefore I'm going to vacate the verdict. He could do that on one extreme. On the other extreme, he could sentence Trump to prison. Or he could sentence him to probation. So he's got a lot of options, and I will say it again. I'd say it right to the judge's face if he were here. That decision will be based 100% on politics. It will be based 100% on what he thinks is best calculated to get the Democrats elected president.
So with that in mind, I don't think that we'll see the judge demand. I mean, I suppose he could upon sentencing. I mean, you talk about his ability to, do this the way he wants to do it. I mean, you're saying that in this world that we live in 2024, this September, that judge could demand that Donald Trump be remanded into custody?
He could, absolutely. He could, slap the handcuffs on him and walk him out.
Jay, is it consistent with my personality that I'm begging for that to happen?
Well, you're not the only person. I mean, look, they tried to, I've forgotten who, Ben Carson, I think, said it just best. First they tried to ruin his reputation.
Uh-huh.
Then they tried to bankrupt him with this silly $400 million verdict up in New York. Then they tried to kill him.
Yep.
Well, now they're putting him in prison. I think we ought to call him Nelson Mandela.
I mean, my goodness. It is fascinating. All right, 20 after the hour. Already a number of you have gotten some questions in for our Friday edition. Get them in at 615-737-9986. That's the best way to do it via the super text line, 615-737-9986. Any and all questions coming toward Jay St. Clair, we'll get to them next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The U.S. joining other nations in signing a ceasefire statement for Israel and Hamas. And an escaped Dixon County inmate, well, he's back behind bars. We'll have those stories at 1:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Looking forward to that. It is 1:24 right now. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Matt Murphy. Enjoying the afternoon at Timms Ford Lake, Twin Creeks Marina. What a beautiful facility and what a gorgeous day God has given us to be out and about, and we would love to see you. Come by and see us. We would, somebody's coming up. See, I know them. I can tell when they come up to see me.
Is it Bob?
It is not Bob, sadly. Bob has not yet to make an appearance on this day. Although, Bob, you are welcome to sit down with us and talk about and anything you want to talk about and tell us the things that we ought not to be talking about. In the meantime, Jay St. Clair is with us. It is Friday as well. Jay, I would like to impart this message to you before we get into any questions for you, and there's a lot of them. This message from longtime listener, one of my favorite super texters, John in Lawrenceburg, would ask that if I would convey a message to you, Jay St. Clair. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Jay, are you aware? This is the question. Are you aware that 3 weeks from tomorrow, it's football time in Tennessee?
John, thank you for that, sir. And yes, I am. But, I have battered ball syndrome. So I try not to invest myself too emotionally into that. But yeah,
like a lot of my liberal listeners have TDS. Jay has BVS.
Absolutely. Well, a lot of people do.
Well, I hear that there's a cure for that, and his name is Josh Heupel. That's what I've heard.
It's funny, man, because I grew up. I was actually there at the last. I can't remember the guy's name now, but Johnny Majors came out sophomore year.
Johnny Majors.
I was there. Tennessee lost to Alabama 11 years in a row. It was lean times. Well, my son Chuck had the exact opposite experience. Right, he grew up during the '90s, and the UT was the best college football team in the country. So it's all about perspective.
And my grandpa had a saying about the sun shining and a dog's behind. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Alabama folks may be about to get a little taste of that.
Well, you know what? I might not be a fan of the Big Orange. I might be a Georgia Bulldog. But on that point, the Tennessee Vols and the Georgia Bulldogs are right there in line with one another.
Well, so is the rest of the free world. The only person I know that feels differently about that is Pamela Furr.
Well,
and,
that it's just proof that nobody's perfect, Jay, the fact that she's an Alabama fan. You know what I mean? Proof that nobody's perfect.
I almost got put in jail one time up at Tennessee, Alabama weekend. I made a mistake going up to Gatlinburg, and the Alabama people take it over. And take the city of Gatlinburg over. So I stood up at the crowded restaurant and said, round the bowl, down the hole, roll, tide, roll. Got thrown out of the restaurant.
By the way, a lot of your fans are out and about, Jay. Larry has written in and said, I waited to eat lunch today to make sure that I could hear Fry Jay. How about that?
Oh, Larry, thank you. I love Middle Tennessee. I love you, and I love your listeners, and I just really thank you for letting me be on your radio show, man.
The question for both of y'all to answer, what do you think would have happened to the Republican Party and the country as a whole? Oh, I even hate to consider this question. I didn't pre-read it. But 8210, I understand why you ask it. The hypothetical about the assassination attempt against Donald Trump and what possibly could have happened. I mean, I perish to even think about how the world would have reacted to a successful assassination attempt, Jay.
Yeah, that's much more in your expertise than mine, Matt. So I defer to you on that one.
Well, I just I would sadly tell you that, once again, I think I have some ideas about where we would have gone, but it would have been a very, very dark time in the United States of America. It can potentially get pretty dark anyway. And I think it's sad. It's a sad. And I'll say this before we get back to questions from Jay. It is a sad testimony to where we are as a country that is not it's not even a month old.
Yeah.
I mean, July 13th was the day that Donald Trump, the assassination attempt, it's not even a month old. And the same mainstream media that talked about, we need a reset, we need to elevate our conversation, we need to rise beyond this, they're back out it. I mean, Joe Biden the other day, the one interview that I've seen him give since he announced he wasn't running for re-election, that same Joe Biden repeated the lie that Donald Trump was talking about bloodbaths and all of these types of things when, of course, Donald Trump was specifically referring to the car manufacturing industry when he talked about it being an economic bloodbath, using that terminology. So I think it's a sad testimony that we seem to have forgotten that an assassination attempt occurred less than a month ago. We're not getting any answers as to how in the world the Secret Service allowed that to happen. So 8210, I understand why you asked the question. I understand your thought process in it. And if you think like me, you recognize that it would have been very, very dark times in this country. Civil unrest, the likes of which we've not seen. I mean, forget the summer of 2020. I think it would have been civil unrest, the likes we haven't seen since the late 1960s. 615-737-9986. A lot of questions for Jay. A lot of people wagging their finger at you, Jay, telling me to tell you that there's good times ahead for the Big Orange. So we'll maybe get into a few of those as well as we continue with Jay St. Clair from Twin Creeks Marina on Thames Ford Lake. It's the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for the news with Jay Harper.
Good afternoon. It's 1:30. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Mostly sunny, 86 degrees now. A full forecast is on the way. President Biden, together with the leaders of Qatar and Egypt, have signed a joint statement calling on Israel and Hamas to resume ceasefire negotiations next week. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have killed at least 29 people in the central and southern areas of Gaza so far today. That's according to Gaza's Hamas-run Ministry of Health. Daryl Blocker, he is a former CIA intelligence officer.
The negotiators need to continue to push through and stop this madness because it's gone on too long and way too many people on both sides are suffering.
And back here in Middle Tennessee, a man who fled a mid-state work crew earlier this week. They have caught him now. The Dickson County Sheriff's Office, they released a statement earlier today indicating that inmate escapee Eric Robinson, he was caught by deputies with the Dickson County Sheriff's Office. He did not put up a fight. He was located and captured with the help of a tip from an observant citizen. He was found near the community of Woods Valley in Cumberland, Furnace, Tennessee. That is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy. And you. We are live at Twin Creeks Marina at Timms Ford Lake. Would love to see you. Drafts and Watercraft doing a brisk business. There's Scotty taking folks to the tables over there. Look at him. Scotty getting some work out of Scotty, which is kind of nice. Jay St. Clair is on the line with us as well. It is Friday J, a symbol of the impending weekend. We're very excited about all of that, and we appreciate your calls, your questions that you're getting in on the super text line. And as they're coming in, you're welcome to get yours in as well. Any and all legal questions will be answered from you to Jay, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Jay, I'm getting several questions about, and I know we're kind of getting to the zone where we might be doing this once a week, but right. It is kind of your area of expertise. But apparently enough people are listening. Enough people are listening that are concerned about non-competes, Jay.
Did you say kind of? Matt, how long did we sit in those depositions together? Where did you first hear the phrase clean kill?
That was from you, buddy. I want to tell, Jay was representing a different client. And I was involved. I'm going to tell the story real quick. This is good enough to tell. And I don't know that we've done it for the Tennessee audience in full. Yep. But Jay has been my best friend for a long, long time. And he is one of the finest employment lawyers will ever find across the face of this United States of America. I mean, he's a great lawyer. And Jay, in a case that I was involved in, was representing another friend of mine because I was being represented by the company that I was working for. So I had the company's lawyers, and Jay was also. And Jay was in the room. He was not representing me as I was being deposed. And there came a point where the lawyer that was deposing me started grilling me on this text conversation that I was having with somebody. And all I saw was a telephone number, and it was vaguely familiar to me, but I couldn't really remember. And he was asking me, "What did you mean by this? What did you mean by that?" And he goes, "And who was this?" And I said, "I don't really recall whose number this was." And based on the nature of the conversation that was going on in this text exchange, I said, "Is it okay if I ask Mr. St. Clair a question?" And the lawyer said yes. And I said, "Hey, Jay." And you said yeah. And you had already started giggling because you were reading along. I said, "Jay, is your telephone number so-and-so?" And he goes, "Yes, Matt, it is." And I looked at the guy and I said, "This was a conversation that I was having between myself and Jay St. Clair." And the guy had no idea what was going on. It was so awesome.
That's actually very believable because, you and I text all the time. I talk to you on the phone constantly. I couldn't tell you what your phone number is.
Well,
it's under that.
I'm going to tell you the punchline to that, Bill. This was incredible. We were out at the Barber Motorsports track one time, and Matt rode his motorcycle out there, and then he had to leave. I stayed out there driving. Well, he left his phone behind. Mm-hmm. And figured it out on the way home, stopped at a gas station, and called back to the track. He just somehow, by the grace of God, remembered my cell phone number.
Mm-hmm. I have no idea how I remembered your number.
Yeah, it was amazing.
But I was standing in the middle of a rainstorm going, "What is Jay's number?" I thought about Lieutenant Dan when I thought about that. Know what we called him? I think that's right. All right, but a lot of folks, Jay, I mean, obviously this is your arena. They're asking if there's any change in status on the issue of non-competes.
Now, the answer is no, there is not. It's set. The rule is set to take effect September 4. There was a judge down in Texas that enjoined portions of it, but it's only for that little area in Texas. So we're on a trajectory right now where the rule will take effect September 4th. There's going to be a lot of legal challenges to it. So here's what I would tell people who currently have non-compete. I could talk about this for a long time, but I'm going to try to abbreviate it. I think that non-competes are hard to enforce, first of all, but the two real-world effects of them, number one, is companies are disinclined to hire people that have non-competes, because they don't want to have to spend the money to beat it. Mm-hmm. And number two, people that have non-competes are disinclined to challenge them because they don't want to spend the money to fight them. So that's the interrerum effect of non-competes. And so I think what's going to happen come September 4th is if the rule takes effect, which I believe it will, the companies will be less concerned about hiring people with non-competes because at that moment in time they're enforceable. And I think people will be less concerned about violating their terms because as of that moment in time they're enforceable. So the bottom line advice is this: if you're wanting to change jobs, you've been wanting to change jobs, totally independent, you don't compete, but you've been afraid to do that because the non-compete is an impediment, then I think after September 4, that'd be a good time to start job hunting. You might want to start a little bit ahead of time. Well, I'll get your resume updated.
Do you believe, Jay, let's say everything stays in place as it is now, do you believe companies, how do you think they'll react in terms of contracts? You know, we live in a world, radio is a world where there's a lot of non-compete language. And that, you know, most people know that. And there are other businesses that have, you know, sales-related businesses. A lot of them have non-compete language in these contracts that they require, you know, employees that are coming on board to sign. Do you think those non-competes will remain, at least from a language standpoint, in the contracts, or do you think we'll see them go away?
No, they'll stay there because it only becomes an issue as if the person leaves and goes to compete. Then it's at that point the company has to decide whether they want to try to enforce a non-compete or not. And, of course, at that point there's going to be a rule in place as if they're not valid. So it's going to be a lot more expensive for the company to challenge it. But, no, I don't think companies will go in and take them out of the contracts. They just won't enforce them, which, frankly, happens quite a bit right now, Matt. You know, because I get calls about this a lot, and companies will call me, you know, somebody leaves and in violation of non-compete goes to work for somebody else. And they'll call me and say, well, how much is this going to cost to, you know, to push this? And they're expensive cases. And I say, well, you know, probably, let's say $150,000, just kind of up front. And then they'll ask me, well, is it worth it? And see, this is where a lot of people don't really understand the real price of oil, man. So my question is, well, how bad are you getting hurt? How much is this costing you? There was a case I was involved with involving the enforcement of non-compete that went on for years, and there were hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees being paid. And so we finally asked the other side, well, what are your damages? What do you claim you lost? And they paid tens of thousands of dollars to hire an expert witness. Do you remember what his answer was?
I think they eventually came to a figure of 30, but they didn't know. They didn't know originally, did they?
It was $34,650.28.
You remember?
I can tell you,
right? They spent. And it's at that point that
dropped the case.
Yeah, right. And you recognize it's become a suit of spite almost at that point, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So they're used. So Jay, you're hitting on it, right? So a lot of times they're used as a way to put another barrier between a potential employee and poaching an employee to another company, right?
You said that exactly right, man.
Okay.
They don't actually have to file suit. Just the existence of the non-compete. Right. Like I say, number one causes some company. I get this a lot of companies will say, hey, Jay, we want to hire this guy. He's got this non-compete. Look at it and tell me if you think it's enforceable. And then, you know, if I say, well, it could be, then they say, well, we'll take a pass. Because we don't think this guy's worth $150,000 to it. If he's going to bring $2 million worth of business with him, then, okay. Well, maybe it's worth it. So, yeah, number one, it makes companies less likely to hire you. And number two, it makes you less likely to move because you don't want to have to pay $150,000 to win your non-compete case.
Ann writes in, Jay, and says, I want to ask Jay if he will say hi to me since nobody else at WTN will talk to me anymore.
Ann?
That's Ann, A-N-N. I'll talk to Ann anytime I'm happy to talk to Ann, but apparently she feels like she's not being talked to, Jay.
This can't be the Ann that you and I saw last weekend.
No, I don't think it's the same Ann. I think this is a different.
Well, and from me to you, happy Friday. I'm so glad you're listening.
Oh, that's so sweet. Let's see. Please help me. And now my computer has decided to lock up, and it's not going to this next question. I'll tell you what we'll do. A quick timeout. It's 47 after the hour. Time to do that anyway. I'll reset on my Super Talk text feed, and we'll get to as many questions as possible with our man Jay St. Clair. It's Friday on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.